Hi there again. This lesson is lesson 16, What Knot's That? Bit of a dick name for it, but we're going to be talking about knots. So what I'd like you to do, if you can, grab yourself a metre of rope. Not a shoelace or a piece of string, a piece of rope of some description that you might have lying around. Might just help you to have a bit of a fiddle while we're talking about knots, etc. And here's the thing, the use of knots, good knots, are critical on a boat. But don't think that you need to know thousands of them. You need to know a handful of them, and that's about it, and that'll get you through most every situation that you'll need a knot on a boat. But first, let's just talk about a bit of the back end stuff on knots. That is knot terminology. Might help you if you're Googling and watching little videos on knot tying. It might help you to consider a couple of the important parts of a knot. The bight, and you'll see the little picture over here in this little fella here. This is the bight. The bight is a bend in the rope where the rope does not cross itself. The working end is the end being used to tie the knot, and the standing end is the end not being used in the knot. And again, you can see that in the small illustration to the right. Knot families. There are loops. These are used to create an attachment point or a hold in a rope. There are hitches, used to tie a rope to an object. There are bends, used to tie ropes together. And there are lashings, used to tie objects together. The key knots. The good news is you don't need to know any more than a handful, literally a handful of knots. Handful of knots. I'm sorry about that. The key knots we're going to talk about. Just a few of them. The bowline. This creates a loop at the end of a line that cannot shrink or expand. And you can see by that illustration there on the right hand side that once there is pressure put on that loop and through the standing end, you can see that it will tighten and it won't shift or slip. It can be done quite quickly and it can be almost as easily undone. It's ideal for mooring line loops. That is when you're coming in to tie up at a dock somewhere and you need a loop on one end of your rope to put around a cleat or something. The bowline is your go-to knot. And it also can be used to join two lines. It's probably one of the 2 or 3 most popular knots or most used knots on a boat is the bowline. Learn to do it. You'll find some Google videos out there where there's 12-year-old girl standing on the front of a deck, single-handed, so one hand swinging a rope around the air, and all of a sudden she's got a bowline on the end of it. See if you can replicate that. I've tried it 1,000 times. All I do is whip myself in the eye with the rope. Next one is the sheet bend. This is typically used to join two lines. Good for joining two lines of different materials and weights. Again, it's sort of similar in its some of its principles to a bowline. And it's relatively easy to undo as long as it hasn't been put under immense pressure or load. So that's the sheet bend. Not as regularly used, but certainly very handy to join a couple of ropes together. The round turn and 2 half hitches. This is fundamentally for securing fenders to rails. It secures the fender and allows the line to move relatively freely. You can see looking at this one here, the rail being the silver thing in the centre there, of course, and the 2 half hitches are coming up the standing end. This knot is perfect for securing fenders to rails, because as your boat might bob up and down and the fender moves up and down and wiggles the rope, the next knot we're going to look at, the clove hitch. The clove hitch can in fact unlock and undo and the fender comes adrift, whereas with the round turn and 2 half hitches, it's a very secure knot, perfect for fenders on rails. And it will also hold a very heavy load too, and it's very easy to release. The clove hitch, this is probably one of the most regularly used lines that I find. The clove hitch and the bowline, they're the two. This is used to secure a line to an object. It's easy to do and usually easy to release and undo. It kind of just unlocks. Can bind up if used under extreme load, but for the most part, the clove hitch is a great all-round knot for securing lines to objects. It can slip depending on the weight of the rope and the material being tied to. Sometimes you might put in an extra hitch. Each one of those, let's have a look here, each one of these, you'd call them a hitch. Okay, it's one hitch to it. Sometimes you might just want to put another hitch in there and just to secure it and ensure that it's going to go well. Alternatively, go back to the round turn and 2 half hitches if there's a bit too much slip and there's a few too many problems. The reef knot, this is used for tying shoelaces, could be, and securing objects and connecting ropes. It's an easy to release undo rope, but it can be difficult to make the tied object tight and secure. Now, the funny thing about the reef knot is I remember the reef knot from when I was 7 years old as a Boy Scout in Australia. We learnt the reef knot, and I've never forgotten the process, which is left over right, then right over left. And if you do the left piece of rope over the right and spin it round, and then the right over the left, you've got yourself a reef knot. It's really, really easy. And the cleat hitch, of course, is it can be easily and quickly secured and can be easily be released even while under load, and it's also very strong. And this is the one that you'll use when you're tying up to a dock or a mooring or something. You can see that there's a wrap around the bottom of the cleat, and then it's just a series of figure eights with a half hitch at the end. So some of these you're going to be able to practice, and that's why you've got your rope. That's pretty much the core knots that we need to know. But there's other knots, about 4,000 of them in fact, and that's the known ones. I'm sure there's 1,000 variations of the granny knot in there somewhere. You won't need to know them all. You might like to get to know a few more knots. So research and learn. Learn the figure eight, learn the fisherman's knot or the rolling hitch, the carrack bend or the trucker's hitch. Trucker's hitch is a good one too, or variations on the trucker's hitch. That allows you to secure things on deck and put a load on them that's with a knot that is relatively easy to undo. Splicing. It's always handy to be able to splice 2 ropes together or splice a loop into the end of one of your standard mooring lines. There's different types of splicing, and it's a topic all on its own. So I hope that's been interesting to you. I want you to go and practice those couple of knots. Tie up the dog, tie up the kids, tie up the wife, tie up whatever you want, but just get to understand those the bowline, the clove hitch, the reef knot, and the sheet bend. That should get you out of trouble. You have a great day.